Hello, my name is Parker Brown and I am a 3D printing nut. I'm going to be putting some more content like this on my channel because I really don't have anybody but one of my good friends to talk about 3D printing, and I feel like there are some things people need to know because I am making a printer that there isn't a whole lot of documentation on, and that bothers me. I had a Monoprice Select Mini V1. Started off life about like this, but it finally died. It bit the dust. So I am repurposing all of its electronics. I gutted everything. And I am using those as donor parts to make a new printer. And this is the Y-axis rail of that printer, and it's called the Snappy. The whole origin of 3D printing into its core root values was the RepRap project, which stands for Replicating Rapid Prototyper. So the idea was to make a 3D printer that is 3D printable. You know, you tell somebody you bought a 3D printer and they say, oh, can you print me this? Yes. Can you print me that? Yes. Can you print a 3D printer? You can, actually. The Snappy, now in its third version, is 79% by volume 3D printable in its basic configuration. If you add in a few miscellaneous parts, that jumps up to 83%, which is the world record for most printable 3D printer. A lot of printers that you'll see nowadays, I don't know if I've got it here, yeah, they will use these long screw rods. You can kind of see that there. This is a very fine one. But they use these screw rods to raise and lower a carriage, and I don't think I have it here. Well, this adapter fit onto the Z-axis, the part that goes up and down, and this screw rod would spin and raise and lower it. Obviously not very fast, it doesn't work that way, but the Snappy 3D prints all of those rails and its own screw rods. So this was the rail segment that's going to deal with the Y-axis, the length of an object. A similar one will sit on top of this that controls the X-axis, and that's going to be an equal size. And then it has two arms that come up for the Z-axis. But I wanted to document my progress in making the Snappy because no one really has. I've seen a couple crappily done videos on YouTube, no offense to the creators, of their Snappy finished and printing, which is great for them. I'm happy they made it work. But nobody documented the build process, so that's what I wanted to do. These are 3 individual parts that snap together, hence the name, and I have epoxied them, I don't know if you can see that, for some extra rigidity. And then this middle segment is unique. It has a case for a NEMA 17 stepper motor to sit in with a printed drive gear on it, and I've got another one here that's going to be the X-axis. So this is a 3D printed gear, and these are set in place with one each screws and nuts. The machine in its entirety only uses 6 screws and 6 nuts, and it's for things like this, because you will also need a extruder motor. I happen to have already mounted this one. This came from my donor machine. And then I'm in the process of acquiring 2 more stepper motors for the Z-axis, for the up and down. But 6 screws for its entirety, and that's one of very few non-printable objects outside of the electronics that this needs. So each of these took about 12 hours to print on my Ender 3, which admittedly is kind of long because I have some printing issues with my Ender, and I have to make it run super duper slow in some cases to make sure it's reliable. But 12 hours or less for somebody with a properly working machine to print each of these segments. So this is a day and a half of printing each of these, and these drive gears took all of an hour to print. So yeah. The next step is going to be the X carriage. But like I said, I want to document all of this and sort of the successes and failures and any modifications that have to happen, such as epoxying things in place just to make sure that it's stable. Word of advice to people who make these: the little housings here for your end stop switches. I don't know if I've got one handy here. I should. Here we go. Your little axis end stop switches. They fit down into this housing. These can be very brittle. Mine were very brittle. I'm actually going to be coating these in some of my ultraviolet cure epoxy for extra rigidity, because I snapped both of them off. They're superfluous. These are switchable. They're ambidextrous, so to speak. So I only need one, but I snapped them both while trying to get my motor in place. And that's just because the motors I have, the plugs for the wiring are longer than on actual branded NEMA 17 stepper motors. So I trimmed this down flush with the metal casing and then kind of had to hammer it into place, and in so doing snapped off the end stop switch housings. To remove the motor and reprint this with better housings on it would be destructive. It would kill, I'm sorry, my phone's blowing up right now, you can probably hear it vibrating. It would kill the housing and it would be entirely destructive. And I don't want to spend another 12 hours printing this. So I'm just going to use some UV epoxy to reinforce, almost like putting fiberglass on something, to reinforce these end stop switch housings. Outside of that, it's been pretty smooth sailing so far. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next section that finishes. I'm not going to be doing a video after every piece that I finish, because that would be tedious. It's 38 separate files, and most of them need duplicates because they are universal, like these. I'm probably going to be printing at least 2 more of these, maybe more. And that's just excessive. So that's where I'm at right now. I want to thank you if you came to check out this video. It may be a little while. It's going to be a few days or more until the next one, because I need to assemble all these parts and get them together. But I want to thank you for stopping by, and I hope to see you again in the near future. If you have any questions, if there's parts of this that you want me to cover in more detail, let me know in the comments below. Yeah, that's about it. I'm excited to get this project going, and I'm excited to have a Snappy, because I think it's kind of the pinnacle of the RepRap project, because it doesn't get much more printable than this. Every part of this is printable except for the electronics and the wiring, so that's pretty neat. Alright, thanks again for stopping by. Hope to see you again in the near future. I'm Parker Brown.